the most powerful experience, or the one thing that I attribute my transformational experience to, is this one part of the process.
Okay.
And there's a lot of work you have to do to get to it, to get you ready for it, and have a shift in thinking and a shift in feeling and emotions and thoughts. But it's this process that they call amends. And so I sat down with these men and they were like, Eric, if you want to obtain lifelong sobriety and if you want to have this transformational experience, you need to do what we did. And we went through this process of amends. And what that was I made a list of everyone that I'd ever harmed, ever. I didn't get to judge how big or small the harm was. If it was a yes or no question, did you harm them? Yes or no? Yes, they go on the list. And then the rules were that if I could make an amends to them, as long as it didn't hurt them or someone else, I had to make it. Personal consequence meant nothing. I had to put myself in harm's way to accomplish this. And then how you made it was also very structured, and they were very disciplined about this. You never say you're sorry. Your whole fucking life you've been sorry. If people applied what you did to the word sorry, all sorry would mean was, fuck, I got caught, I'm gonna do it again. So we don't say sorry in this process. People think it's like you go around apologizing. We don't apologize. You might express regret. And so what we would do is I would go in these different situations of people and places, and I would say, you know, I'm a drug addict, Pop, and I harmed you. And how I've identified that I've harmed you is I stole from you, I assaulted you, I cheated on you, whatever. And I'm willing to do absolutely anything I can to make that right. What can I do to make that? Did I leave anything out? Is there anything that I've harmed you with that I'm unaware of? And you shut up and you let them talk. Sometimes they're like, no, sometimes 2 hours of them berating you goes by. And then the next question is, what can I do to make this right? And whatever they tell you to do, you do. There were 300 people almost on my list. I made amends to people that I was involved in violence with. I made amends to stores that I robbed. I made amends. I mean, if you can think of it, I went and cleaned up all of it.
What's the craziest thing someone asked you to do to make amends to them?
Oh, God. I was talking about this the other day. I used to steal from Walmart. I treated that place like a personal ATM, right? And
Sam Walton wasn't happy with you.
No, he's pissed. And so I went into the Walmart and I asked to speak to the manager, and I waited around, and the manager came up. I went through my spiel. I said, my name's Eric. I'm a drug addict. If you don't know them, you say, I'm on a life and death mission of recovery. My life depends upon being here today. I've wronged your store. How I wronged your store was I stole from here. By the best count, I probably stole 57 flat screen TVs, 100 or more fucking electric toothbrushes, Infamil dude, we used to run in there and when flat screens actually cost something back then, we'd stack up the flat rollaway and roll it through the front door, and we would know loss prevention was going to come. And sometimes we'd be sneaky and get away with the shit, but sometimes they'd roll out and they'd always say the same shit. You know what they say when you're stealing?
What?
Excuse me, sir. That's what we called it. You get excuse me, sir. And they go, excuse me, sir. And we'd be like, back the fuck up. I'm fucking, and just act crazy. And they'd be like, oh, I make $17 an hour. Take it.
Yeah. And don't have a gun.
Yeah, exactly. And so I tell the manager this, and this is a longer version than the story I told the other day. This is what actually happened. And she's like long-faced, and she's like, I'm going to have to get loss prevention. Wait right here. I was like, oh, fuck. I'm like, I'm going to jail. This is like my third amend I've ever made. I'm brand new, right? And they told me Walmart would be an easy one. I'm like, this is not easy. And so the guy comes out, and he happens to be like a higher up in loss prevention. And I go through the process with him. And he says, give me your information. And I'm like, all right. And I'm like, I'm going to jail. Like, they're going to prosecute me for this. And a couple days later, he calls me up and says, Eric, listen, we got a real problem with addiction down here at Walmart. And we got a real problem, a lot of people stealing. And we'd appreciate it if you come in and meet with us and help us out, figure out what the hell these addicts are doing to rob us blind. And so I went to occasionally, they would call, when they wanted me to, they would call me, and I would go into these trainings, and I would teach them all the scams of how we robbed Walmart. It was crazy, right? I mean, dude, we used to go in and take like those electric razors that cost like $100, $200, or electric toothbrushes. And I would get like one of each or a couple of them. And I would have like a Walmart bag and I would just put them in the bag and I would walk to the return desk and return them and get gift cards and then sell the gift cards for 50 cents on the dollar. And it was like ding, ding, ding. It was like 15 minutes. I'd have the guy that was buying the gift cards in the fucking parking lot waiting for me. Go up, hit him the gift card. He has 300, give me $1.50. Cool, I'm out. It was crazy. And so that was one. Another one.
What was their reaction when you're telling them like things like that, right? Which are like,
they're like,
stupid.
you do what?
Yeah, they're like stupid, they're like, but they're still like, damn, 150, 300, like this adds up quick.
Every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I can't go to that Walmart. I've been there 4 times this month, drive me 2 hours to some other Walmart. And it's crazy, bro. Home Depot, same thing. But I'd have those little faucets, the expensive, thing. Those things are like $500, $1,000. I'd walk it right up, return it. And
they would just do it because they'd say, give you store credit, gift card.
Yeah. They give you a store credit card and have a nice day. And, you
just walk outside.
Yeah. And I'd sell those to all the contractors, the Home Depot cards. So they're getting 50 cents on the dollar money.
Yeah, they love you.
Yeah, they love me. And another time, when I did all that overdosing, and 4 of those overdoses, I ended up in the same emergency room.
Wow.
Parkland Medical Center. And I would overdose 30 minutes away. And somehow they brought me to this fucking place. I drove past 5 hospitals to get here. And I was, I was not pleasant. When I thought I got abducted by aliens that first time, I woke up, I was naked. They had cut my clothes off of me. I felt a cold hand grab me to stuff a catheter in me. They were holding me down. I jumped up, punched a male nurse, started running around. They sedated me, put me out. I woke up 2 days later. Every time I would come to down there, I'd cause a scene. One time I'm running around the nurse's station, the emergency room with a Johnny wide open, naked. They're chasing me, just crazy shit. And I AMA'd every single time. They were like, please don't leave. I'm like, I'm fucking out. See ya. Ripping IV lines out of my arm and bouncing out of the hospital, going to get high. And powerlessness, just can't not. And so I walk into that emergency room. This was a powerful one. And I asked to speak to whoever runs the emergency room at the little triage desk. And I got to sit there for 3 hours. Of course. And this woman comes out and says, can I help you? I said, yeah, can we talk somewhere privately? And we walk through the hospital, we go to this conference room and we sit down and she's like, what can I help you with? And I start telling her the story. I say, hey, listen, a few years ago, I'm a drug addict, I'm in recovery. I harmed your facility here, your hospital. And a few years ago, there was a span of 6 months that I ended up in here 4 times on overdoses. And she's looking at me and I start telling her, I said, there's this one time that I came through and I punched a nurse. There's this other time. And she starts fucking crying.
She starts crying.
She starts crying. And I'm like, okay, this isn't going as expected. You know what I mean? To me, it's business as usual. Like
I've done this 242 times already.
Yeah, exactly. And she says, Eric, I remember you.
Wow.
And you came in here so much and you were so dramatic with your stays and then we never saw you again. Honestly, we thought you were dead. We talked about you. We still talk about you occasionally, wondering what happened to you. And she's crying. I start crying. And she says something that fucking hits me like a Mike Tyson punch. She says, we never see people like you get well. And I was like, and I said, what can I do? We're crying, we're hugging, we're having a moment. I said, what can I do to make this right? She says, I'd like to leave your number at the nurse's station. And when we get addicts here that come here, we see them all the time that overdose. They don't listen to us. We're just some nurses. Would you come speak to them? And I said, absolutely. And over years, I probably saw, 150, 200 people bedside in that emergency room. They'd call me 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. Eric, we got one down here. Will you come talk to him? And true to my word, I'd go down there and sit next to him and helped a lot of people get sober out of that emergency room. Mm-hmm. Not everyone listened, but got a few of them. And so just very powerful, powerful experiences like that. Most of them didn't work out the way that I thought they were going to. I had one where, it's kind of a crazy story, where I'd been up shooting cocaine for like 3 days, right? And you start losing your mind after a couple days being up doing cocaine. And we had heard that these dudes that we knew had robbed a mini golf place, and they robbed the safe. And they robbed the safe, and I was with a couple bad dudes, and we thought we were badder than those dudes. And so we were like, well, they robbed the safe, they got the money, let's rob them. And so that's what we did. And so
follow the money.
Yeah. We set them up. We went to someone that knew them, and they said, come over, and they came in. And it's a long story, but what ended up happening was we robbed them. One of them had a handgun that we didn't know about. My friend got shot. I got shot at, dumped a clip trying to catch me coming out of this house. My friend got shot in the chest through here. My other friend got shot through his hand. And they took off, and everyone dispersed, and it was this crazy situation, And so in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna kill this kid. This kid's dead. Like, you're gonna shoot at me, try to kill me. And
that was the first time you were shot at?
No. But in that situation, I'm like, it's on, right? Mm-hmm. And now I'm filled with anger. I'm filled with hate. Mm-hmm. He ends up getting pinched because some of the other people tell on him. He goes to prison for 6 years for this.
Wow.
That kid. I put him, listen, this is the shift in perspective of old self is dead, new self is different, a totally different perspective. At the time, we on the street, you shot him, you tried to kill me, fuck you. Mm-hmm. I go through this recovery process, and I start to wake up to some truth around it. And I said, this guy was, in the same life that I was, but I placed him in a position where he needed to defend himself. And as a result, it cost him 6 years of incarceration. He went in as I think a 19, 20-year-old dude, and came out 25, 26 after doing state prison time. And the no one told, but the state prosecuted him because off the medical records, and, they had enough evidence, but no one testified. And so I write this, I go through this recovery process, and like, I went from, I want to kill this kid to like, fuck, I feel really bad for him. I feel a lot of compassion for what I did for him. And so I'm ready to make this amend. And I got to this place of forgiveness with him and ownership of my side of the street, but I don't know where he is. And a lot of people live on the street. We don't have big social profiles. Like, you know what I mean? We're hard to find intentionally. And so my friend dies, and I go to the funeral or the wake or whatever it was. And then I go to the after thing, and there's a big bonfire, and it's at night. And I walk up to this fire, and I sneak between two people. It's like shadowy, and you can't really see, and I look to my right, and it's him.
Wow.
And I'm like, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and we're both like this. And I go, can I talk to you? I put my hands on body language. He goes, yeah, we can talk. And I walk off, and I make my approach. And he says, I appreciate that, and I was wrong too. And me and him shake hands as men. And one last thing to worry about on the street, and we're all good. I think the funny thing about the amends process and the spiritual journey and the path is like, it places you in positions that you can't see. You just have to blindly do the work and have the faith, and you don't know. I got this cat working for me. He moves from Maryland to take a job for me. There's a city. It's like a top 10 worst city in the country. I grew up right outside. It's called Lawrence, Massachusetts. It's like a drug haven, like gangs. It's bad. I spent a lot of time there. And I'm telling him about it on like a Sunday afternoon. I'm like, yeah. He's like, bro, let's go for a ride. And they got good Spanish food down there. So we went down to the hood, and I'm driving around the hood, just telling stories with this guy that I'm friends with that took a job for me. And I'm driving down Broadway. It's years later, and I see him, and he's walking with some prostitute, and he's about 50 pounds underweight. He's strung out on drugs. And I'm like, holy fuck. And I bust a Yui in the middle of the street. I roll up on him. I'm like, bro. I jump out of the truck, and he just puts his head down. And I'm like, what's going on? And he spills beans. He's like, yeah, dude, I'm fucked up. I'm living on the street. I can't stop shooting dope, smoking crack. Fuck, got this hooker, fucking girlfriend. I'm like, yeah. Kid's a mess. And I'm like, get in. And, we were able to get him to treatment. We were able to get him to recovery. It placed me in a position to be useful to him. Mm-hmm. And he's sober today. He's in recovery. Yeah. He's living a good life.